before. If you've been on V2, you could rearrange your formulas. We tried doing drag and drop. This drag and drop always sounds so cool and sexy, but it's really hard to implement. It ends up being really hard to grab the right line to get it to actually go where you want it to do. So we found it's actually much simpler to just use these up and down arrows. So, you know, I added in this instruction later in time, and I can move it up. So I can use those move up now.
I wanted to specify the order of the ingredients. I can only put it in on the instruction, or could I have, let's say, the actual operation, say step 1, step 2, step 3?
You can label it within the operation of step 1, step 2. You can label it in the instruction. Plus, your batch ticket should be printing in this order. You know, it should mix up the order of your lines when you print your batch ticket. So as long as you put in the order here that you want it to be, and if your workers understand, you do it in the order it prints. You don't necessarily have to number it, so it kind of depends on how much trust there is there.
Can you also add your own attributes if you want to tell them?
No. We have a different place for attributes, but it's not in the line. Well, no was too quick of an answer. We have this thing called parameters, and we can use parameters very much like attributes as a way to park some additional data. Parameters were initially intended, you know, the design that pushed them was doing machine control. So like I add water, and I know the quantity of water that's really covered, but I need to add it at different temperatures. When I add it at the beginning of the process, it's supposed to be added at 70 degrees. When I add it 3 steps later in the process, it has to be added at 90 degrees. And I may want to actually send that to a machine as well, so it's doing the right thing. So we have this thing called parameters that we can add, and you can put those onto your formula. I think I'm set up to show those in this environment. I'll double check, so I'll try and cycle it again. So there should be a way to do it. I will say at the moment, parameters don't go into batches. So if I'm trying, which is something that we're going to add, but at the moment they don't. So if I'm trying to then print that on a batch ticket, I actually have to look back to the formula to get it and find that. But that's a way to add some additional data. Other thing we are showing you the percent weight and the percent volume. We've got this size 2 ingredient. That was mainly, or initially done for, I guess, bakeries, where bakeries size everything around flour, and they do mixes from flour. You're tobacco now, but you've been there, huh?
I've been there. It is. When you're not in it, it's confusing as hell.
Yeah, this was one where, yeah, I was like, if you say so, we'll do that, but I don't know why you would size around flour. But anyway, so you can mark a size to ingredient. That was sort of the intent in doing it. I'm not sure if it has place outside of flour, and you might have some place other than a bakery. Do you know that you can rearrange things in here? So if size to ingredient is not important to you, then just move it way over to the right and get rid of it. So it is kind of a drag and drop. So there's size 2. And I tend to only go, like I don't try and go beyond the screen, and that's me. But I do happen. So I can move this way over to the right and get rid of it. And maybe my instructions are pretty important, so I bring my instructions further over to the left. Play with that, do what you need to do there. You might also need to make your instructions a little bit wider because they start wrapping the text and doing things to there. They don't grow instructions there. Let's deal with some of these other columns that you had in your grid available to you. And I will say you can technically delete columns, but they're hard to get back if you delete them, so just let them right. There's a way to get them back, but you're going to lose your other settings. All right, cost. I'm displaying cost right here. This is modifiable as far as what cost is displayed. This is actually a pretty typical support call of, that's wrong. Yeah, it's easy, it's okay. In here, if you go back to the home, you can specify what cost should be displaying there. So at the moment, I'm displaying the Vicinity standard cost, and all of mine are zeros anyway, so this isn't going to do much. I can display the Vicinity last cost. If I'm hooked to GP or NAV or SL, which I'm not at the moment, I can also display the Dynamics cost directly from your ERP system. So you can do any of those that work for you. And that will automatically update these so you're seeing them. Okay. Scalable. Most of your ingredients are probably scalable. That's why the box is defaulted to be checked. And it simply means that if I make more, then, or if I need to make more, then this item scales up as well. There are some ingredients, maybe yeast when we're doing bakeries again or something, that I don't put in twice as much yeast if I want to get twice as much, that kind of thing. So you can mark certain items as non-scalable without boxes. Rework. Rework is intended to stop the drill down engine, is the easiest way to think of it. When we do something like MRP, or later I'll show you component cost roll-up, or the compliance reporting, we're starting up at your finished good and we're drilling down to a raw material. Okay, so I start at this finished good and I say, what do I need to make that? Okay, I need this. Now for each one of these, what do I need to make that? Okay, I need these. Now I'm here, what do I need to make? Okay, we keep going down and down. If for some reason you get to a point where you say, well, to make product A, I use product A, that's a problem. I've got an endless loop called recursion going on. However, a lot of times you do use the same product when you're making it. A great example would be paint. I've got some leftover paint. I want it to be the same lot number, so I'm going to mix it in with this lot, and just use it as an ingredient. So, in those types of situations, if you mark the item as rework, we won't do that drill down process that kills us. Okay. Size to ingredient we talked about. Modifiable you can ignore for now. We're not using it. Did I cover everything in there? Everything looked good? Yeah. This is really kind of the heart and soul of the formula. So that's why I'm spending so much time on its little grid there. Do know that I am currently on what's called the mix formula. You actually have two formulas within a formula. One's called the mix, one is called the fill. What it should be is two different ways to make the exact same thing. The best example, the place we use it the most, tends to be for make from scratch versus fill it from a tank. So I have my make from scratch list of how I make this, and I've used raw material 1, raw material 2, raw material 3, lots of instructions, etc. And maybe that makes my bulk product. Now I have this liquid goop sitting around and I put it in a tank. Later on I'm going to package that goop into something else. I can do a fill procedure that just uses the goop. I don't have to go back to raw material 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to consume the goop out of the tank and make whatever it is I'm making. So I can do a second set of procedures. It's called the fill formula. And I can put in here essentially just whatever my goop is. Right? And I haven't created a goop item, so I'm not. Right? So this would be where you put just your bulk item, most likely. It should be two different ways to make the exact same thing, not making two different things. Other fun. All right, I'm going to switch back to my mix. We talked some about properties this morning, and I think I said something about, oh, this is cool, they put it on both sides so it can flip. Did you just do that?
Yeah.
They're brilliant. Sorry. Okay. So we talked about some properties this morning, and then I said something about lab calcs. I'll show you those. This is something that has to be turned on in your system, so you might not have this little checkbox called Enable Lab Calcs, or you might have it turned on. If you don't have it at all, we can talk about, it's a simple setup to add. If you do have it, you can check the box, and then you have to drag over here. All right. These are the paint and chemical lab calcs as opposed to the food. If you were food, this is where I'd be showing total calcium, total calories, total whatever. These are calculated lifetime based on the formula. So, if I change this and I'm now doing 50 pounds of RM1, my numbers over here change for me. Okay. These numbers are all based on the properties that were entered for RM1, RM2, and RM3. And they are the properties for RM1, RM2, and RM3. So if I do have intermediates involved, I have to enter the properties on the intermediates for this. Let's see here. So that is those. Parameters, it's another pull-out section like here that you would set up those additional parameters. So if there's something that you really need, essentially an attribute at the line level, you can talk about doing a parameter and throwing it in there.
Looks like our enable lab calcs is the same, so that's a setting.
It is. It's a client setting. And for you guys, are y'all all logging into a terminal server or an RDP?
Citrix, right?
Cool, so it's one place. If you had individual workstations, we've got to hit everyone. Yeah. What else do we have? Restrict to primary version. Okay, so let's experiment for a minute. This is my VC Train 1 version 0 formula. So we talked a little bit about versions earlier. I'm going to clear this out. I'm now going to create another version of this same formula. So I do new version. And it asks me, would you like to create a new primary formula version? So basically, do I want this new version that I'm creating to be my primary, or do I want to leave primary where I am? So sure, why not? I now have a primary version 1, or a version 1, which is my primary, and my version 0 is still out there. When I clear this and I go to look up my formulas, at the moment, I'm seeing both. That could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, depending on what you want. Maybe you only want to see the primary versions. That's what that box is for. So now I only see VC Train 1. That hits again in batch entry. Do I only want to see my primary versions, or do I want to see all of them? And sometimes it's fun, something like that will get checked and you're like, oh no, it wasn't here.
What does active mean? Is that like, we sometimes have multiple formulas and switch between them? Do you use the primary to switch or the active to switch?
If it has the same formula ID, you use the primary. If you have different formula IDs,
Maybe it's, could you?
then yeah. All right.